along the way. So firstly, welcome everybody. It's great to have this first training session on between our American partners and our partners in Asia to get moving on that and be able to make these first important steps. Bping, I'd like to thank you for bringing all the team together, and Andrew on that side, and Ken and Eric and Sila, I'm sure we'll have a good presentation on that side. The end of today, we might have as many questions as we have answers, because the good thing about training is that it gives you some idea of the product. So without much saying much more, to give you an idea, my name is Peter. I'm based in Sydney, Australia, and my role is as the CEO of ASAP is to ensure that we provide all the back-end support for the people who need it, and be the bridge between our American partners and our team in Asia. So, Ken, are you leading? One other thing that may be useful is once we start the presentation, if people actually turn their videos off and mute themselves if they're not talking, but if you have a question, then you can bring your video up and put your hand up. And that's merely to save bandwidth on presentation, so you'll get to hear properly and those types of things. And you don't need to see my Christmas beard for the next hour or so. So Ken, leading with you, if you want to introduce, or Ken or Eric, I don't know, whoever's leading on your side. I can see your face, that's why I'm probably talking to you, Ken.
No problem, Peter. I just have the photo up because, like you said, in the interest of bandwidth, I find it's best if I don't use video unless we need to. So yeah, I'll go ahead and start us off from the side of the fence over here for the AI team. So we are ADMD, of course, and I am Eric Chain. I'm a Senior Vice President with the organization with regards to sales and channels operations. I'm located over here in the US of A, of course. And with that said, I'll pass it over to Sila to introduce himself. And Sila, when you're done, you can pass it to Ken.
Sure thing. Thank you. And I'm Sila. I'm based in LA. And essentially, just bear in mind the word operations. So anything that might be a operational roadblock, a need, a want, a desire, something that we need to implement or integrate, that's exactly what I'm here for.
Excellent.
Hi, everybody. I'm Ken Murray. I'm also on the ADMD team. I'm Senior Vice President of Business Development, and I'm like Eric, very close to beautiful Philadelphia. You see the skyline behind me. And basically, I handle all messaging, pre-sales, a bit of the marketing as well for ADMD. So any kind of messaging for the sales and pre-sales, that's where I handle most of that. And also social media, LinkedIn, for example, or LinkMaster AI. I handle a lot of the preparation for profiles and optimization of LinkedIn profiles. And that's it for me.
Terrific.
Excellent.
Thank you, guys. And we must pass on the apologies of Arturo and Marissa, who are also key people in the organisation as the CEO. But they unfortunately were not able to make it today. So Andrew and Bping, can I hand it over to you now to do a quick whiz around the TBL team?
Yep, I'm from Australia, as most of you know. I'm the brand laureate president here. And I'm really grateful for ASAP to organize this. Right now, what I'll do is I'll just get Bping. Bping is the very important person, the CEO of the brand laureate Malaysia and global, to just say a few words about himself, and then we pass on to the other presidents to just have a word. Now, Ganesh from India, the brand laureate president, he signed his apologies. He's still caught up with the COVID-19 there. And precisely now it's about 4 a.m. there, so the time really doesn't suit in. So other than that, I'll just pass on to Bping just to have a minute to say about yourself.
Hi, good morning, everyone. I'm Bping. All right, I'm the CEO of the brand laureate. What I'd like to say thank you to Andrew for actually getting the whole thing done up, so that we can actually get the program running around, and also, of course, to Peter for his initiative in bringing up all the programs. So we hope that with all this that in place, we'll be able to have a good start to it. And of course, my colleagues from Singapore, Vietnam, Vietnam and all the country presidents of the Brand Laureate are looking forward to getting this whole program up and running. So yeah, maybe Paul is in, he would like to say something. Paul is the country president of Vietnam, and Dorian is from Korea itself. Yeah, over to you guys. Paul. Dorian?
Oh, your microphone is not working.
That's all right. Kevin, can you speak then?
Yep. Can you hear me?
Moving. Yes, we can hear you, Kevin.
Everyone.
Paul is now.
I'm in Kuala Lumpur at the moment because of COVID, and I'll be here for a while, but thanks for inviting me and joining this group. I'm pleased to meet everybody. Thank you.
Hi everyone, my name is Dorian, based in Korea. I was in the KL before and living in the United States and India as well. So lovely to be meeting all of you. So I'm a president of Brand Laureate Korea. Thank you for.
Hi everyone, this is Kevin. I'm the hybrid of everything. Vietnamese name, born in Hong Kong, grow up in Germany. I'm a German based now in Singapore. My wife is Korean. Yes, I'm the country president of Singapore, and I'm glad to work with all you guys together. I'm very excited to see how the SAI can really turn around the picture for all of us, and hopefully we will succeed all together as a big team. Thank you so much. Yes.
The Singapore skyline is looking wonderful this morning, Kevin.
Yes, all the day, all the time. No, unfortunately, it's a raining season in Singapore. Not so nice at this moment.
I was just about to say I get a lot of compliments about my Philadelphia skyline, but after tonight, I'm going to have to revise it completely.
Yes, unfortunately, no. Yeah. But we'll get back to that. No worries. Thanks. Fantastic. All right. Sure. Who's next?
Okay, and I don't know if Kieran's in a position to speak. He was going to stay on mute. He's joined us on the call. He is the COO of Brand Laureate of ASAP. Kieran, you want to jump in?
Everyone's met me so far, I think, except for Silong. And like he mentioned, all you need to do is remember operations, which is basically all the doing stuff. So, you know, anything that needs doing, give me a call. Let me know. Make it happen, guy.
Call him the
I'll
ghost.
not forget the
All
voice.
right.
Fantastic.
Now, have we covered everybody in this meeting now, Simon? If that be the case, I think the best thing we can do is head straight into the training in the best interest of people's time. And in that, we've fortunately got a video sent to us yesterday which gave an overview of what we're going to talk about today. And I hope you all had a chance to have a quick look at that. It was 20 minutes long. Probably left a lot of questions to be answered, but having said that, I'm handing over to the team now and from ADMD, and we'll leave it to you. Please, as I say, put your videos off, mute your microphone, but remember, if you want to ask a question, then unmute your microphone, come on video and ask your question then. Thank you very much. I'll see you in half an hour perhaps.
Excellent. Excellent. Thank you so much for that. And also, I'm not sure if the screen sharing was enabled, but I do have the presentation with me to pull up so that we can discuss that as well during this session. Can you enable that, whoever the host is? I don't know if that's you, Peter, or...
Now, Eric is on now, so you can...
Oh, excellent.
Yep.
Thank you.
Yep, got it.
All right, just bear with me one moment. All right, and just let me know. Hopefully you all can see my screen. It might say loading. It sometimes takes a second or two, but it should be popping up momentarily. And we do want to say Arturo and Marissa did express that they wanted to apologize for not being able to make it today. Unfortunately, they did something that everyone in an organization does at some point, which is they're double and triple book themselves. So unfortunately, they didn't have the capacity to make it today, but they knew for our purposes today that the team would be able to handle it very well. And we're very excited and very enthusiastic about this partnership and looking forward to seeing what we all can do together. I will say I do have a tendency to speak a little quickly, as us Northeasterners of the United States do. So if I go too fast and anyone needs me to slow down, please feel free to jump in and say, Eric, slow down. I will not take offense to that, because I want to make sure that you all get as much good information as possible out of today's call. And in the interest of time today, we're going to stick with kind of a high-level overview of things, but we will get into some detail around some of the components that will be beneficial to you. And in future sessions, we'll go deeper into different areas. So I think handling those areas kind of one or two at a time in a more deeper review will be much more beneficial than trying to cover them all at once. So with that being said, can everyone see the screen okay?
Yeah, it's all right, Eric. It's all
perfect. Thank you.
Good.
So we like to say AMD, our philosophy is the power to grow, and we're going to jump into that. Normally with these presentations, I would ask, the individuals in the company I'm speaking to a little bit more information about themselves, but obviously for today, we're going to pretend that all that has happened and moved into the actual opportunity that we present. So the opportunity really, when we talk about that, is the idea that many companies right now are starting to look at AI adoption, and many are struggling with what exactly that means, how to best utilize that AI adoption. But the important thing for them to take away, as you can see here with the quote from Forrester, is that the companies that take advantage of AI and master, they're going to be the ones to emerge, from this new normal, as they call it, from the mess that we're in. They're going to emerge as the leaders and really be the ones to kind of separate themselves from the pack as we go forward. And it's just because the capacity that AI has, it really is one of those transformative type of things that comes along every now and then, like the cloud, for instance, or the advent of mobile phones. There's always an emerging technology that comes out and does actually have true power to change the game. And that's really what we're talking about here. So with that, what ADMD has done is we've developed what we call the AI Growth Suite. And we'll get into that momentarily, but really what it is it's 4 kind of individual quadrants, if you will, that can be utilized individually, or they can be used together. And each quadrant is powerful in its own right, but used together, it can really be game-changing. So we like to talk a little bit about key terms when you're speaking to people about AI. You'll speak to people who know it very well and really don't need a session. And then you'll speak to others who are struggling to understand the concepts and how it works. I just wanted to touch briefly on these areas, just for the benefit of when you have to explain it to people. We put definitions here that I think are very simple, very self-explanatory, but they really do cut to the chase of what exactly each component is. So of course we have AI, simply said, it's artificial intelligence simulating the way the human mind works. Then we have what is machine learning. Very simply put, machine learning is the ability to have that AI automatically learn, improve upon itself, and it really works off of the same human capacity that I like to refer to as the scientific method that we all learn in school. It's a process of observation, creating hypotheses, testing them. And the great thing about AI, and this is probably the most important part of machine learning, is it doesn't have to sleep, it doesn't have to rest, it doesn't have to divide its tasks into multiple different things throughout a day. So I always use the example to help explain this to people, that if you want to learn to play an instrument, maybe the saxophone, the xylophone, piano, whatever it may be, you would have to take the time, you'd have to make time in your schedule, and you'd have to dedicate yourself and put many, many hours in order to get proficient at that process. So the AI does not need to eat, doesn't need to sleep, it doesn't need to rest. That's the important thing to keep in mind, is that it continuously learns and improves upon itself, and it processes all this at the speed of nearly the speed of light, 2/3 the speed of light, which is incredibly fast. That brings us to natural language processing. So natural language processing is really the idea that the AI not only can go through machine learning through the scientific method, but it also understands to a degree human behavior. Things like the tone of your voice. Are you using sarcasm? It also has sentiment control, where it can pick up on sentiment and understand that. So it's a very deep learning neural network which is involved in the process. One of the other things to understand is how first-party data works. I'm sure many of you probably already get this, but what I like to say to people is the easiest way to explain what first-party data is that is information that someone comes to you to find out about. So we use the example of if you were a store front of some sort in a strip mall somewhere, someone comes off the street and enters your store and wants to browse around, they want to ask questions, that's your first-party data. They've now made contact with you for the purposes of being a potential client or customer. And that becomes your first-party data. A few more, and then we'll jump into the actual AI growth suite. So we talk about identity resolution. And really what this is this is really how the AI can identify who a potential buyer is versus someone who's not really a buyer. And most importantly, the AI can distinguish unique individuals from the bots that are out there. Unfortunately, there is a lot of bots out there, a lot of stuff that's never going to buy from anyone, but does take up their ad revenue. So that's an important thing to understand too, that the AI can identify the people who are looking to buy right now from those who are casually looking at things. Maybe they're going to be buyers in the next month or two, from those who are just simply not even in the right market or are just a waste of time, so to speak. Now, we also talk about unhashing, and this is really the process of taking personalized information related to potential customers and unhashing that information. Things such as, emails, phone numbers, that sort of thing. So unhashing is a process that we can do, but we often and most likely don't need to do. By the way, everything we do is legal. It falls under CPA compliance as well as GDPR compliance. We have, a lot of ability, but don't have to uncover personally identifiable information in order to do what we do. And that leads me into the last component here. What is personally identifiable information? This is that information that exists out there online that, people can get a hold of, things like your full name or even a bank account number. So very sensitive information. So again, in order to uncover that personally identifiable information about buyers, in order to track their behavior and target them, we don't have to uncover that, okay? So these are kind of the key components to the way the AI is set up and how it works throughout the AI suite. So these are important things to understand. Hopefully I explain them in very simple terms. I just find that's the easiest way to learn things. So let's talk about the AI growth suite. As I mentioned, we have these 4 components that really make up the suite and how the suite is powered. And again, I can't stress enough, if you run into a client who is only a candidate for one of these potential areas, that's okay. They can use one or all 4 or 2 or 3, whatever their needs may be. That's what we're here to help them with. So I'd like to start off with the brand master portion. So when we talk about brand master is the way that the growth suite utilizes artificial intelligence as well as some human branding designing expertise as well to create a vision for an organization to really help them make an impact and resonate with their potential clients, okay? So we like to say that there's 3 types of brands that float around out there. There's the brand that you look at that you go, well, yeah, that's okay. That's pretty good. Then there's brands that are just outright terrible. We've all visited a website that looks like it was made in 1991 and it's still out there and still looks the same. That's what we mean by a brand that's really not that great. And then there's the brand that you look at and you right away, something goes off in your mind and you go, wow, yes, this is what I'm looking for. I like this. And those are the types of brands that we create. The traditional ways that brands were formed in the past, it could be any number of different scenarios. It could be someone who just completely created their own brand based on what they liked. It could be someone who spoke to some focus groups and did actually take that extra step and get some information or hire an advertising or marketing agency to help them with their brand. The way that AI is changing the way that brands are created, AI simply just has the capacity to learn and think about things that we as human beings wouldn't even think of or pick up on. Just to give you a for instance, there is a type of cologne that was being marketed. And as part of the brand, for some reason or another, the AI came back and said, hey, this brand will sell and resonate with the clients that you're targeting a lot better if you put a foreign word on this cologne. And in fact, it suggested a German word over, say, a French word or a Spanish word or whatever it may be. So that's just a quick, simple example of how the AI will uncover components that the human brain just doesn't typically think about. So again, with Brandmaster, keep in mind, it doesn't necessarily have to be someone who's starting out and creating their brand from scratch. It could be someone who hasn't updated their brand in quite some time and needs to, pardon the expression, get with the times, you know, and redefine that brand. You know, Coca-Cola, they change their marketing strategies, you know, on a pretty often basis, you know, everything from the types of commercials to the design of their product or their cans. So the idea is that, you know, every so often you should be taking a look at your brand and say, hey, is this helping me capture the right people that I want to target? So next we'll jump into LinkMaster and we'll talk a little bit about this. So with LinkMaster, really, the solution utilizes everything that we've been discussing.
Sorry, Eric, can I?
Yes.
Sorry, just a real quick question on that.
Absolutely.
You mentioned there that your for instance case there that someone the German AI linking all the successful profiles and target market and looking at all of their data and saying, well, actually, this is what they're buying or this is their previous buying history.
Mm-hmm.
Is that kind of, that it's looking at all of that stuff in the background to make that assumption or that connection?
Correct. Yep. In fact, that's one of the things that we'll talk about a little bit in the Marketing Master. So the AI is able to look at all that, again, without unhashing it and without identifying that personal information, because buyers have histories.
Yeah.
And
awesome.
yep, it gains that ability to look at that buyer and look at pretty much everything they've done, if it's out there on the internet, if it's accessible through social media, those sorts of things.
Brilliant. Thank you. That's what I was after. Cheers.
Excellent. Thank you. So again, with LinkMaster, I'll kind of start over with that one. But basically what the LinkMaster solution is doing is it's taking everything that we've been discussing with regards to the AI, and it's going to use that information in a fashion that increases your LinkedIn leads. So conversations, partnerships, opportunities, agents, all these types of connections are made on a regular basis on LinkedIn. And we use the same AI and expertise in this fashion to automate most of these interactions. Again, the idea when you're using artificial intelligence is not only to be more effective, but also to give you more time back in your day that you would normally be using to manage processes such as this, okay? So through the AI expertise and the automation, we can create some very aggressive and good campaigns that make people think they're interacting with you, with a human being, while they're making these contacts initially, up until the point where they either say, hey, I'd like to put an appointment on the calendar so we can talk about this more, or they say, you know what, I took a look at things and I don't think this is for me, I'm gonna pass. All those interactions that lead up to that moment, though, can pretty much be automated through our process. So the idea would be to take anyone who would spend any part of their day on LinkedIn, reaching out to contacts, trying to form new relationships, and automate the majority of that process for them in a way where we can reach out to just simply a lot more people, a lot more effectively in the course of a week than someone could do manually. I'm going to jump next into Marketing Master AI and talk a little bit more about that. So Marketing Master, basically, again, this is part of how we distinguish those potential buyers from the people who are just simply browsing or looking, they're not quite ready to buy, to those who are showing actual buying engagement signals. And most importantly, again, distinguishing between the bots. Unfortunately, much marketing dollars are spent towards bots, and this can be eliminated, and this is what we do with Marketing Master. So this produces a savings to clients immediately, and basically it's gonna be very effective for them in two simple ways. We're gonna eliminate those bots and get that ad revenue back to people that are actual buyers versus spending that money for a bot that's never gonna buy from you. And the other way that we're gonna do that is by uncovering those 3 to 7% of buyers in your market that are looking to buy right now, okay? So again, Marketing Master ties in with everything, and it's all about efficiency, targeting the right people at the right time in ways that make sense to target those individuals based on their buying criteria, based on their activity, based on their history, based on what they've looked at on social media. All of these factors the AI is going to take into account and help us uncover who are the buyers that make sense to talk to right now. And we're still going to also keep track of those buyers who were kind of browsing, kind of looking. We call them in the US, we refer to them as tire kickers. You know, they're out looking at the car, checking it out, but they're not really ready to make a buy per se. But we still want to keep track of them because sooner or later, those buyers start showing signs that they are much more in a position where they're looking like they're getting ready to buy. Okay, so the marketing master helps identify and keep track of all that. And consequently, when you have someone who we refer to as a browser or a tire kicker, who is now showing indication that they're much more likely looking like a buyer, the AI is going to move them into that type of position automatically. Again, letting you know that they are now in that 3 to 7%, so it makes much more sense to engage with them now. All the while, previously, we would just simply nurture them until it made sense to engage with them. So the last component of the suite is the Sales Master AI. So Sales Master AI, now everything we've talked about, Sales Master is designed to integrate with. Okay, it's basically, we like to refer to it as kind of a next generation CRM, and it's designed kind of by salespeople for salespeople. So the idea to the CRM first and foremost is salespeople, let's just come out and say it, they can be very ineffective in their day in terms of time management. The latest statistics that we've looked at will tell you that a salesperson will spend anywhere from 70 to 90% of their time doing non-generating revenue activities, okay? So things like creating notes in the system, things like scheduling follow-up calls, things like leaving messages throughout the day, things of that nature that, you know, we have to do, but they're not exactly revenue driving activity. They're not engagement with a prospect at that particular moment. So this next gen CRM solution is designed to take the guesswork out of the sales process, but more importantly, minimize the amount of time that salespeople are engaged in those non-sales activities that we were just talking about, okay? It's crafted with the intent of automating your daily tasks associated with sales that are not productive uses of time. So this all-in-one system is designed to automate that entire customer journey with all the interactions being logged, noted, automation to the emails, marketing offers, messaging, workflows, and more. The idea is to provide as much possible automation throughout the platform as possible. This also increases customer engagement and meeting attendance. So now your rep is spending that 70 to 90% of their time actually selling, resulting in, from what we've seen, as much as anywhere from an 88 to a 300% increase in conversion and retention rates. So if you think about it, all those tasks that we do on a daily basis that just, you know, aren't going to drive revenue, by automating them and taking them off our plate, that gives us so much more time to focus on the right activity with the right individuals. And because we're finding these individuals and identifying them through things like Link Master and Marketing Master, we're going to increase the amount of people that you're speaking to that are actually fitting the buying profile, as opposed to those people that you speak to throughout the day who just simply aren't a good fit at the time. So I want to give one other example of how that automation might play out. So you might have someone who you've set up a call with. Well, one thing we would typically do throughout our day is confirm our appointments for the next day. Well, that's going to be an automated process. And you have that meeting set on your calendar. A workflow is set up so that the night before or the morning of, whatever the preferences might be, that note goes out automated. And that person either, you know, replies and accepts and says, yep, looking forward to the meeting, can't wait to speak to you. Or if something's come up, they're letting you know. Also, things like a text message or a voice message drop. These can be automated as well in the same fashion. So again, the idea is to automate as much of that process as possible and give you time back in your day to focus on the things that are going to drive the revenue. So I'd just like to point out here, everything that we're talking about is information that, you know, we put together over time, all through these different organizations that you see out there, like Forbes, Gartner, Forrester. When we talk about something and how we think it's revolutionizing the industry, we don't just like to say it because we think so. All the information that we've brought to bear has been researched, has been backed up by some of these top organizations. So I do like to point that out as well. So you should be able to have confidence in the things that you're talking about, that it's not just something that, you know, we came up with. It's all backed by organizations that have a lot of clout and a lot of respect in the industry. So with that said, that's kind of the high level presentation. Now, certainly there's a lot more deeper diving we can do in each of our different growth suite sectors or about AI in general. But in a good use of everyone's time today, what I wanted to do was hopefully give just enough information for you to grasp some of the concepts and certainly field and answer any questions that we can that may have come up either in reviewing the data that was previously provided or through the conversation that we're having today. So with that said, I'm going to go ahead and stop sharing the screen and kind of open it back up so that we can start fielding some questions and whatnot.
Hi, Eric, this is Andrew here. Now,
Hey, Andrew.
Pretty much that first thing first, this AI is more like a trailblazer kind of thing that we are introducing to the market, brand new and certainly something that a lot of people would like to know. Now, coming back to your screen about the few products you were saying, Brandmaster AI seems to be the crown of everything. Now you have LinkedIn AI, marketing AI, and sales AI. Been new here, almost plowing through a virgin market out there in Asia Pacific. What comes first? Do you introduce LinkedIn AI first to the prospect client, or would you suggest otherwise?
Sure. So, and that's a great question, by the way, Andrew. Thank you for that. Typically, what we've found works best is starting off with the Linked Master AI component. And there's a couple reasons behind that. One, it's one of the simpler things to deploy. So we like to do that off first. It's also something that provides results very quickly, okay? So it's something that people can see once they've implemented it. They start to see results from it, and it starts to change the way that they interact with Linked Master. So it becomes very effective, and I think it lends some credence to the capabilities right off the bat. You know, I would say the only time that we don't start with LinkedIn first, the Linked Master first, is if we identify that someone really needs to get their brand together first. They're not in a position to really start advertising or marketing or talking about their company because they haven't quite put it together. If we identify that first, then we would probably go that route. But in most cases, I would say 8 out of 10 times, Linked Master is probably going to be the preferred way to start.
Can I chime in 1 second here, Eric?
Absolutely, Ken.
So Andrew and team, I would also add to that, exactly what Eric said is 100% right. What I would add to that is in certain cases, predominantly B2B, LinkedIn is the place to go. B2C, if your product is being sold to an end customer, that might have some exception there. LinkedIn may not be the primary or the best way to go, if that makes sense.
Yeah, Ken, I do agree with you, because one thing that I am mindful is that LinkedIn is very developed in the Western countries, right? Especially America. But I'm not very sure about the maturity of LinkedIn in Asia. So if we look at the market sensitivity and the customers, they are prone to response, right? If they don't really use LinkedIn, if we have a customer like that, what would you suggest instead of it like play by ear? You know, so is there any guidance you can give us in specific?
Yeah, so my recommendation would simply be this. If the company is selling or looking to sell to anyone in the United States or Canada, they need to use LinkedIn. If they're selling to anyone outside, whether it's Europe, Eastern Europe, or Asia, then then there might be some other. We would have that discussion and see what some of the potential targets might be that would make more sense. But to your point, you're right. That's actually an advantage. Not having LinkedIn developed as much in Asia puts that particular individual or company at an advantage to start using it before or ahead of some other competitors who may want to sell to the US or Canada. Does that make sense? And does that answer your question?
Yeah, I see your point. It is good to develop a trend for something and be a market leader to promote LinkedIn. Having said that, what I need to impress upon you is that the Asian market is heavily centered around relationship, centered around warm leads. So the group of brand loyal presidents here, they have already got a huge network of companies which they are accustomed to, especially brand loyal Malaysia. They have about 2,000 companies. So if they have already got the clients on board, all right, and you talking about identity resolution, behavior tracking, and then the automation. Now, would there be something we can do in tandem, like introducing linking to them, and then talk about something else? So do we talk about sales AI, sales master AI first, or do we talk about marketing AI if we have a warm lead, if that makes sense?
Yes, it does make sense. And I think a couple of those ideas are very valid with regards to what you had said about, showing people and being kind of the trailblazer. But at the same time, you're absolutely right. In some cases, it may not make sense. In a case like that, marketing master or sales master would be a great way to go, because whether you need a presence on LinkedIn or not, these two function independently. So they can be applied with or without the LinkedIn utilization. So marketing master might be a great way that once we've worked with an organization and we've kind of tested their media or their SEO strategy based on their ad spend, we can integrate with their marketing and distinguish the bots from all the media. So you can show an immediate savings up front to them, as well as helping them to target better quality leads, better quality customers that they want to interact with.
Yeah.
Maybe also here to add on, this is Kevin speaking. Andrew, it's okay. I fully agree what Andrew said, as well as what you mentioned as well, because I have run into these troubles in the past before as well, when we are working with Salesforce.com, and I have to go for alternative solution even up to China. The reason is basically, first of all, LinkedIn is not very popular in Asia. Yes, in Singapore, majority due to the internationalization. Here, all the companies are somehow represented there. But other than that, Asia or Singapore is actually more focused towards ASEAN business. So there's a strong ASEAN collaboration where they are doing a lot of trades within this zone as a free trade agreement. So with that said, we are talking about India, we're talking about China, we're talking about Indonesia, and so on and so forth, where they have a lot of supplies and material that they would like to trade with each other. They, with all these language barriers that we are facing, it is often very difficult for them to communicate and deal with each other. So US might be a bit too far, except they are ready to be able to do international business. When we are selling this idea to them, last time I get often the feedback, yeah, sorry, but we are not ready, and even dealing with the US side is too far for us. We actually need to solve our ground challenges here first. So with that said, LinkedIn might not be the proper start for certain activities, but I do agree marketing AI or sales AI could be one of the better option. Branding is something that we follow afterwards, because most of these people, when they want to spend the money, they in Asia here, especially only for myself, my experiences said that I need to make money first before I make my brand. So they often say spending money in branding, yes, it is somehow necessary. It's like a marketing department, but before I set up my marketing department, I would like to have my sales department first, because these are the direct source of revenue in stream. Yeah. So if we are able to help them with this particular problem, I think that will be a very good killer tool for all of us.
Kevin, I couldn't agree more with what you said. And that's the interesting thing about different markets in different parts of the world, right? Is that everybody functions a little bit differently, or has their own unique problems to solve. So you said that beautifully. Kudos. I couldn't have said it better myself.
Yeah, if I might step in, that's a conversation we've had at ASAP. offline, and it's interesting to hear that come out. But we absolutely believe that the number of organizations or businesses within Asia that are looking to reduce their marketing budget because of the populations in, I mean, you know, you mentioned China, India, and Indonesia. I mean, you know, what's that? Over 2/3 of the world's population there, just in those three countries almost. So, you know, the marketing AI starts to get rid of a lot of those bots and that huge marketing spend to not reach many people, and start to identify those people that are ready to buy, or at least you're targeting the correct types of people. That sales AI, you know, complements that really well. But the marketing AI, I think, as everyone said, is the way in. That's the way we can kind of say, well, actually, we'll reduce your costs straight away. We can show you some benefits. We can start to deliver positive returns on your business. That then has them going, well, actually, this is working really well. What else have you got? Well, we've got the sales AI, which will, you know, take a lot of the time from your salespeople and get them to selling more rather than filling in notes, doing all this other stuff. Great. They start to see returns from that. Now what else? Well, we can get you into the US market through linked AI and redoing your brand, so it's probably more US appropriate. So we could, there is a journey there we can take them on, and as we've all pointed out, you know, it probably, because of the difference with Asia, it starts at that marketing AI. But you know, it's good to get that overview of all the products so that we can start to identify how that journey looks and how we get, because at the end of the day, we want the customers using all of the solutions, not just one of them, and moving on to the next customer. And I think once we get them using, say, our marketing AI, we will show the returns to have them confident enough to try the next one.
Agreed. Very, very well said, Kieran. And I'll simply add to that. If the intent is to, you know, lead in with the marketing AI, which I think, you know, from everything we've talked about on subsequent calls and as well as this call today, I think that that is the right approach. So to give you a little bit more idea on just how powerful that can be, what we've learned is anywhere from 40 to 60% of ad revenue that's being spent by organizations is being wasted on bots. So the bots thing is a large, large piece of that. Now, add to that, not only can we remove those bots and reallocate that spend in a way that makes more sense, but we can also really focus in on learning who those buyers are and building that buyer profile so that if we come across those buyers, we know they're the right fit. And also, by spending your time on those types of buyers, as opposed to buyers that you don't know if they're truly a buyer or not, that alone, if you think about it, that should increase your sales productivity pretty powerfully. So I think the immediate savings of eliminating the bots and making sure that you're spending your ad revenue in the right places, combined with bringing more qualified, tangible customers to the table, those two things I think is really your lead in and where the power in the message should be.
So Peter here, I think it's a very good summary here, but put a context on this is as a group, we actually want to be users of these products ourselves. So we want to be able to use it to sell the ADMD product, but we also have other products through Sept that we'd also like to be able to then link to other people and sell. So for this to be really successful, we have to become users and advocates in our own right and understand the power of what is happening. And we can assist through that process as well. But there's certainly key selling points. One, we do understand there is a change management process here that for a lot of people, this will be a new presentation, but some of the things that Eric was saying then about increasing your sales and your reach and Kieran data are things we've got to be able to do. And there's no doubt that from the first slide that AI is going to take 1.2 trillion US dollars out of the market in the USA. It has the capacity to do that throughout the whole ASEAN region as well, and we can become leaders in that. So remember, we'll be using this ourselves to sell it to organizations, but also to sell other products. So that's a context for all of us. And we must become users and advocates ourselves to see how it works, because once we use it and we're committed and believe in it, then we can sell it more fully.
Very well said. Very well said, Peter. There's no substitute for that type of commitment and that type of conviction when one speaks because they know something works because they use it themselves. It was always amazing to me. I don't know, maybe some of you have experienced this in your past lives as well, but there was organizations that I worked at a couple of times where they were, for instance, selling a type of marketing component, but they didn't use it. And I always thought, this is so strange. You got your team selling something that you don't use because you don't think it's that great, but yet here you are, So that was just something that was always amazing to me. So I agree completely with what Peter's saying is, once you've adopted it, started using it yourselves, and you start believing in it, I think it becomes that much easier to express it.
Yeah, maybe also to add on, since we are all having one common ground here, we are all under the brand Lorette branding. One ambition that we would like to do here is also probably, if it's possible, to use this solution to experience ourselves, to find out all the brand Lorette recipients or awardees that we can use this solution to plug it in for the marketing AI. Also for the branding AI, so that the branding of brand Lorette will be used in association with the nominees out into the market, that will harvest more data, more information that generates more leads. So if this entire process can be connected together, so that brand Lorette can get more benefits of more potential leads that say, oh, I would like to receive this award as well, then we can actually showcase to every president as well as to the market, hey, this is how we have improved furthermore beyond Malaysia, beyond our countries. So meaning one part, if we want to bring LinkedIn inside this communication, meaning brand Lorette can expand to US very fast. So then we are tapping on your strength. On the other hand, when we are using this tool, you are able to enable us to get into this fine-tuning process. We in return can help you to conquer the Asia market as well, because you will create a much stronger database compared to LinkedIn for the ASEAN market. That will be a win-win. In combination, this will give us back a very strong argument to sell the solution, because either you're now looking into the ASEAN market, either you're looking towards the US or the European market, because European using Sync rather than LinkedIn, then you are having a win-win situation created for us as a brand Lorette team, as well as you as an ADMD team. Would that make sense?
Yes, absolutely. Totally agree.
Because in this
I
case,
want to add on, sorry, Kevin, I want to add on to what Kevin has said with regards to LinkedIn. Now in Asia itself, all right, or even, I mean, in Malaysia, LinkedIn is coming in very strong to talk to many companies to use their solutions to promote and all that. So how do you differentiate what LinkedIn is doing with your LinkedIn Master, LinkedIn AI itself? Yeah.
Sure. So, and let me make sure I understand correctly. You mean how our LinkedIn Master is different than simply using LinkedIn yourself? Is that what you mean?
Yes, because you see, once where LinkedIn is concerned, all right, LinkedIn as a company is concerned, they have their people coming to, going to many companies and promoting their solutions and all that, all right, in the sense that they, like what they say is that if you have a LinkedIn account, you can use our solutions and we can help you to target your, to reach a better target audience and all that, all right, and of course you have to pay. Mm-hmm. And the amount is pretty hefty for many companies itself. So how do you differentiate what you have in your LinkedIn Master, LinkedIn AI, with what LinkedIn is having, the LinkedIn solutions?
Yes, thank you. Thank you for clarifying. That's what I thought you meant, but I just wanted to be certain. So really the major difference is, it's really two things I like to say. One is, you're absolutely right. You know, you can go through LinkedIn and utilize it yourself, but the thing is, it's a very cumbersome and very manual process, okay? So what happens is, the things that the AI is capable of doing is doing everything much, much quicker for you and automating it in a fashion where you're not having to dedicate anyone's time to simply manually operating the LinkedIn, because many organizations have found it to be, quite cumbersome, where it's taken them a lot of hours on an individual's plate to properly manually market them through the linked eye component. So we had a client not long ago, as a matter of fact, who had exactly this problem. He said, we do great with LinkedIn, but it takes up so much time of my day. And we explained to them, well, a big part of how our LinkedIn Link Master works is by automating the process, reaching out to the contacts, starting up the conversations for you, so that you don't have to be doing that on a manual day-to-day basis. In fact, Ken's had a lot of experience with this. So Ken, I'll invite you to say a few words if you like.
Sure, Eric, I'm happy to. That's a great question, by the way, B. The main element of what we do with LinkedIn that LinkedIn cannot do and will not do, because they just don't have I don't think, the facility or the manpower to do it, is in the messaging. So first of all, the automation is another thing they're not going to do. We will be able to set up a customer with literally the next 10 messages going out to a potential prospect. If they don't reply to that connection request, we have another connection request maybe 3 days later. If they don't reply to that one, we have another one perhaps 10 days later. We automate that entire process. And another important thing we do is we customize the messaging, and we split test and test various different messages. What AI does over time, it learns what some of the better messaging is. This message A works 10% of the time, this message B 35% of the time. We're now going to start using more of that message and particular words in that particular message. And again, with the important thing, this is all things that we could learn as humans to do on our own with LinkedIn, but the AI learns it at 2/3 the speed of light, which basically means within 30 to 90 days time, we have gotten extremely good, usually within an 85 or around 85% accuracy as to the exact message and the exact wording that is going to get someone to connect with us if in fact they're interested. And since we're sending out these requests to that 3 to 7% of people who are ready to buy now, we have that going with for us as well. Does that make sense?
LinkedIn is concerned. Yeah. Can you hear me?
Yep, we can.
Okay. Now you see, where LinkedIn is concerned, companies have their LinkedIn account, and so do the staff. All right. So like where the brand laureate is concerned, we have our own LinkedIn account. I personally have my LinkedIn account. Kevin has his, and so does Andrew. So is it possible if we were to use that link AI to, merge everybody's into one, one system itself? For you to tap on the data and all that. So my contacts in LinkedIn goes, and Kevin's LinkedIn contacts all come together, and so it's the same with the brand laureate's contacts.
So I'm not sure if
this is just solely if the company were to sign up, all right, if the brand laureate were to sign up, so you're only working on the brand laureate contacts and not mine, and my own contacts cannot be merged into the brand laureate's contacts.
Well, if what you would you well, there's two different thoughts here. Are you looking to use LinkedIn to send messaging from various people within brand laureate? So 2, 3, 4, 5 different people who have a LinkedIn account. And you want to be able to combine the results or the reporting on the data. If that's what you're looking to do, yes.
Yes. Can we do that? Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Because what we're going to do is we can run multiple campaigns for one person, or we can run multiple campaigns for 5 people. So for example, B can have 2 or 3 different campaigns going out with different messagings. For example, one campaign for your existing contacts that you have already connected with on LinkedIn, another campaign for people you don't yet know and you're just going out to the targets you've selected. Or you can have Dorian doing one campaign, Kevin doing one campaign, Paul doing another campaign, and we can aggregate the results from those 3 campaigns So we can do it both ways, if that makes sense.
Thank you.
Yep. Again, just to kind of tack on to what Ken said, a big part of the value too is the type of messaging that the AI and our expertise put together, because I got to tell you, there's a lot of very basic, common LinkedIn users who don't really do effective messaging, whereas the AI helps us to figure out what messaging is going to be effective to make people want to become connections, to make people want to know more about you or your organization, as opposed to the standard that so many people put out. I know we're getting close on time too, and I want to be respectful to that, but at the same time, I want to make sure that we've, answered as many questions as possible. Maybe won't be able to cover everything in one night. But Peter, how do you think we're doing questions-wise?
Well, I think there's been a lot of commentary on how it fits into the market, and I think we've come up with some really good points to cover. And at this point in time, be interested to hear from Dorian or Paul or somebody who hasn't made a comment yet about how they know. But what our next stage is going to be, we would like the team to be forwarding questions to us. That's Kieran and I, and including Andrew, so that we can get those addressed and for another meeting later this week. Because the key thing you wanted to be able to do is at this stage understanding what the product is, then giving it the market context, and then have our go-to-market strategy from there. Mm-hmm. So still interested. Dorian, Paul, do you got any commentary at this point in time?
Yes, I've got one that talks about earlier part. You said machine learning applications and natural language processing. So I'd like to ask about languages, meaning that, okay, we assume, okay, we're all speaking in English, but a lot of countries in Asia here speak their own lingo and their own languages, be it Indonesian, Thai, Vietnamese, or, and that's a huge population. Of course, there is almost that 5-10% of every country that can speak English well. But if by large, the majority speaks their local languages, how is this going to be in tune with the local language, local culture, local nuances, pronunciations, as well as does it add more to the cost in terms of translations? So again, they will, as Kevin has alluded, where do we start, and what's, as usual on most Asian companies' mind, what's the least investment I can put in to get started? What's affordable, right? Because everyone likes to start, but we all start with owning a small car rather than a Rolls Royce. So before we can graduate to that, so we like to know. I mean, the economy of scales are also different. There's a lot of small, medium enterprises here that need such services. The big boys have got all the help, and they're all part of the Fortune 500 global network of companies, be it telco, insurance, healthcare. I can go on the rest of the day for about 50 more questions, but I'm not sure if that's time.
Sure. No. Thank you for that, Paul. So one of the great things about the AI is it does have the ability to learn new languages. And as part of that process, once it learns that new language, the more that it processes and works with that language, it gets better and better at interpreting that language and interpreting things like colloquialisms, sentiment, distinguishing between someone's emotional output. Are they enraged versus are they sad? Are they calm? So the AI does have that capability. I know I'll have to check with the team a little bit deeper on what all languages we currently do. I know we do a handful of them, but I'm not sure how many different potential Asian languages it may or may not have booted up. But I understand that it's not too hard a process for us to get that in play when needed, because again, the AI learns and processes so quickly. So it's usually in a matter of weeks, it can learn a new language. Is that helpful to you with regards to the language part? Okay, great. And in terms of costs, most of our most of our suites here, the different areas are designed to be very cost effective. Frankly, in some cases, we're going out there and just undercutting the competition, and we're doing that on purpose to help grow and expand the brand that we're building and putting together. So as we get into the costs, I think you'll find that no matter what you're looking at, the 4 components, none of them are what I would call outrageous. Just for instance, I know versus a CRM like Salesforce, for instance, we're looking at, not even a third of the cost for something that works much, much better in terms of AI utilization. Because a lot of the CRMs out there, they might bring up the word AI, but when you truthfully look at their process and what they're doing, they're not really utilizing AI for the most part. So I think it'll be very cost effective as well as we go down that road.
Right, I'd like to mention
just to add to that as well, we have had discussions as well offline that, for a lot of companies that are spending, that 50, I think we'd previously mentioned something like $50,000 a month on digital spend. One of our strategies will be to suggest things like cutting that down to 40,000 a month and giving us 10,000 for a proof of concept. And we'll work out the wording on this, but how we can then all but guarantee that we will beat, or ADMD will be able to beat the results that they're getting with that $40,000 spend versus the 10,000 they pay through AI. So when we talk about, what's the minimum spend, there is a process here where we're not actually asking anyone to spend any more money. It's actually to take some of that budget they're already spending, give us a portion of it, and watch how we demolish what they're doing. But those messages will come after this conversation. It's good to hear these things. Peter and I will work on a bit of messaging and some stuff to send out. We'll run that past the ADMD guys prior to sending out to yourselves.
Excellent.
It's a good point. Something we have mentioned previously is we never intend to ask people to start spending more. We're asking them to spend less. And I think that should always be a good hook for people. Dorian, did you have anything you wanted to add?
Okay. Thanks for the sharing this good information. I think that the products is great enough. And what Kevin and the BP mentioned, that is globalization is quite important. In such as like Korea, we have influence of America, so many the company directly come to the country to expand in East Asia. What I think that these products needs to embedded to the Korean culture, as well as like the Northeast Asia. You might be need more campaigns, not just the LinkedIn, because you're using different methods. Like one of the biggest stock IPO was done by the messenger company named Kakao. So this kind of a Kakao using more than WhatsApp or WeChat than ever in around the world. So what I think we might be through this campaign through this kind of messenger like Kakao or very, very strong power in YouTube these days. So this expanding your strategy to the Korean market might be need more localizations, understanding the AI.
I'll chime in real quick on that, if I could.
Go ahead, Ken.
That's a great point. I'll just tell you that in certain cases for a particular product, like we spoke about B2B versus B2C, we might want to run a campaign on Facebook, for instance, here in the US, because most likely Facebook is going to be the right platform. There's no doubt in my mind that in Europe, there's certain platforms that we don't use in the US. The same thing in Asia is going to be the case. And I wouldn't be surprised, even from country to country. Japan may have some specific platforms, South Korea, some particular platforms, and China, and so on. And maybe even different parts of China, different platforms where it's going to make sense. We're able to find that out very quickly, and we're also able to, like Eric mentioned, design and the AI will understand not just the languages, but the sentiment. And that's kind of an important point to bring up, because the AI doesn't recognize Korean from English, from Spanish, from French, but it recognizes the sentiment and it recognizes the intention. It understands, okay, this particular response means they're not so interested. This particular response means they're very likely to buy very soon. That's what the AI does extremely well. So yes, we will need to have the right language translation pieces in place to send the message. But when it comes to analyzing the data, the AI is going to be doing that very, very effectively. So yeah, to your point, Dorian, there's going to be a lot of different platforms. And I wouldn't be surprised in the next 10 years, we see a lot of new emerging platforms we don't even know about yet today with the way technology works, right? And we'll be keeping on top of that as well.
Agreed, and I'll just add to that real quick, Ken. I think that's also where the marketing master can be useful as well, because the marketing master is going to tie into ad spend and ad revenue that organizations are already doing across the sites and the media where they're already doing it. So keep that in mind as well.
All right, guys, I'd just like to make a comment in summary. Today has been a very good day, and thank you everyone for sacrificing the early morning or the late evenings to make this happen. Now, for the presidents, right, just let you know that Peter have set aside another session on Thursday, this Thursday at 11 a.m. your time, to go through more micro questions so that Sept can take on with the ADMD US. So if you are free on Thursday, 11 a.m., which is 1 p.m. Australian time, we will have another off meeting away from this where we can dwell further into more areas that concerns your country, culture, and different market. Now, back to Eric and Peter, I'd like to just make a comment that this product is amazing, all right? AI is great. There are a lot of new terms to learn, bots and tire kickers and all those things that I mentioned is actually very relevant for the marketplace, which I really believe it will work. All right, and these are solutions that companies are really seeking and they're hungering for it. So what I believe right now, for any session to come into the brand laureate, as I speak on behalf of them, every training session must have one outcome, that is to build confidence in the president. Confidence for them to move to the marketplace, confidence for them to talk to clients, and confidence for them to bring results to whoever they see. So in this, of course, the proof is in the pudding. All right, what we are trying to say here is that there are many approaches we have discussed today, different perspectives. And one thing that I can suggest, as I've spoken to a lot of presidents, is that they have already got context. So to simplify it and to make it easily assimilated and digestible, I would suggest that if we can let them work with Sept by bringing customers in. Now, all we need to do is one customer to start, one prospect client. And we might not know how to do it because it's uncharted waters to many of us, all right? It is the onboarding that makes us learn. So in the process, if we bring an organization, whatever criteria that you have proposed, 15 million sales or whatever not, 15 million sales or different perspective and angle, we can then come to you and say, hey guys, this is the background of the person. What is the best approach to it? Do we start with Sales Master AI or Marketing Master AI? And this one thing I believe, Eric, would be a very practical way for implementing it. And if it helps, perhaps we can work further with you guys to help the people on the ground, the boots on the ground, to really have a victory over the battle that they are facing down there. If that meets your expectation as well.
Yes, I believe so. I think we would agree with that, and we think that that is a fine strategy and an approach to the process. So I would think we would agree with you. In terms of the call for 11 a.m. For Thursday, will you be sending that out in an invitation, Peter?
No, Eric, that is
Eric,
that is between.
Eric.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry, that was for internal.
Yeah.
Yeah, Andrew,
Yeah,
Thursday, 11 a.m. is not possible on my side. If you can push it up to maybe 8 or 9 a.m., that will be good. Yep. Andrew and Peter, yeah.
Okay, so
yes,
it's
very happy to be flexible, Ping, with the, yeah, that was just a suggested time,
Yes,
and we'll work that
same,
out
yeah.
offline. Okay, so to sort of finish off today, and we'll work that out, is we did say right at the start, at the end, because this was a really strong awareness building, there'd be more questions at the end than there were at the beginning, which is a good thing. It means we've had to think about it and try to think of it in the context. We also need to be aware that with any of these solutions, one size does not fit all. It's not going to be the same in each country, because we realize every country is different, and one size does not fit all for each organization because of their size, their needs, their requirements. And good consulting sales means you're listening to the customer, understanding their needs, and then being able to put the pathway in. The key thing for us is to be able to understand the products very, very fully, and part of that comes from using ourselves. Can I suggest that everybody have a good look at their own LinkedIn profile now, because you can't be doing a good LinkedIn system unless your own profile is very, very strong in the first instance. And we can certainly give lots of hints around that, how to improve your LinkedIn profile. The next session on Thursday will be to address questions, and if anybody can forward questions, Paul, you can send your 50 questions if you like to us, so that we can have some of those ready to address and share to everybody, because I'm sure the questions will be quite common. And in between time, working with Ping and her team will start developing some collateral or start sharing that, so you've got some things to take to market as well. If there are there any more questions at this point in time? Andrew, I'll leave it with you and Ping and others to sort out what time suits on Thursday. As I've said, I'm very flexible on that. Part of the 11 a.m. was so you could all sleep in a bit more, but we'll go from there. Are there any more points or questions? Ping, have you got any final comments from your side, or Andrew, or Eric, or Ken?
I think from our side, we're very good. I think I want to thank everyone for their time, taking the time, whether, as we said, whether it be morning or evening. I think it was a very useful session today, and I was very happy to get an opportunity to speak to all of you, and just look forward and want to say we're excited at the opportunity of working together.
Thank you, Eric. That's great.
Yeah, I want to ditto that, Eric. I just want to say a great pleasure to meet all of you all over the. I think this is. I just broke the record for meeting the most people around the world in different places on one go-to meeting session. So it's been a pleasure, and I sent you all my LinkedIn page. So if you'd like to see how I set up my LinkedIn page, by the way, I don't take credit for much of what I've done, because I've learned from the best at SAP. If you're familiar with SAP software, for many years I was on the team that actually drove the social media and LinkedIn process when they began to realize about 10 years ago that LinkedIn was about to become a very powerful platform for everyone. So I benefited from getting free training that's probably worth hundreds of dollars an hour today. And I'm certainly happy to share that with anyone at any time over the next few weeks, months, or whenever we work together.
Thank you guys for today's meeting. Been great to meet all of you, and also to have this very fruitful discussion. What I notice is that the more we discuss, there's a lot of things that questions that arises, and I think Thursday meeting with Peter would be good to solve it. So until the next meeting, which I think which is set for September 24th, we will see you all then. Yeah. Okay. Bye-bye.
All right. Thank you.
Wonderful.
Thank
Good night,
Thank
everyone.
you for the introductions. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Yep.
Have a
Thank
good
you,
night.
everyone.
everyone.
Thanks.